The Han dynasty was the second imperial dynasty of China, preceded by the Qin dynasty and succeeded by the Three Kingdoms period, spanning over 4 centuries. The Han period is considered a golden age in Chinese history. To this day, China's majority ethnic group refers to itself as the Han people, and the Chinese script is referred to as Han characters. It was founded by the rebel leader Liu Bang, known posthumously as Emperor Gaozu of Han, and briefly interrupted by the Xin dynasty of the former regent Wang Mang. This interregnum separates the Han dynasty into 2 periods: the Western Han, a former Han, and the Eastern Han, a later Han. The emperor was at the pinnacle of Han society. He presided over the Han government but shared power with both the nobility and appointed ministers who came largely from the scholarly gentry class. The Han Empire was divided into areas directly controlled by the central government using an innovation inherited from the Qin known as commanderies, and a number of semi-autonomous kingdoms. These kingdoms gradually lost all vestiges of their independence, particularly following the rebellion of the 7 states. For the reign of Emperor Wu onward, the Chinese court officially sponsored Confucianism in education and court politics, synthesized with the cosmology of later scholars such as Dong Zhongshu. This policy endured until the fall of the Qing dynasty in AD 1911. The Han dynasty was an age of economic prosperity and saw a significant growth of the money economy first established during the Zhou dynasty. The coinage issued by the central government mint in 119 BC remained the standard coinage of China until the Tang dynasty. The period saw a number of limited institutional innovations to pay for its military campaigns and the settlement of newly conquered frontier territories. The government nationalized the private salt and iron industries in 117 BC, but these government monopolies were repealed during the Eastern Han period. Science and technology during the Han period saw significant advances, including paper making, the nautical steering rudder, the use of negative numbers in mathematics, the raised relief map, the hydraulic-powered armillary sphere for astronomy, and a seismometer employing an inverted pendulum. The Zhongyu, a nomadic steppe confederation, defeated the Han in 200 BC and forced the Han to submit as a de facto inferior partner, but continued the raids on the Han borders. Emperor Wu of Han launched several military campaigns against them. The ultimate Han victory in these wars eventually forced the Zhongyu to accept vassal status as Han tributaries. These campaigns expanded Han sovereignty into the Tarim Basin of Central Asia, divided the Zhongyu into 2 separate confederations, and helped establish the vast trade network known as the Silk Road, which reached as far as the Mediterranean world. The territories north of Han's borders were quickly overrun by the nomadic Jabei Confederation. Emperor Wu also launched successful military expeditions in the south, annexing Nanyu in 111 BC and Dian in 109 BC, and in the Korean peninsula where the Shantou and Leling commanderies were established in 108 BC. After 92 AD, the palace eunuchs increasingly involved themselves in court politics, engaging in violent power struggles between the various consort clans of the empresses and empresses dowager, causing the Han's ultimate downfall. Imperial authority was also seriously challenged by large dualist religious societies which instigated the Yellow Turban Rebellion and the Five Pecks of Rice Rebellion. Following the death of Emperor Ling, the palace eunuchs suffered wholesale massacre by military officers, allowing members of the aristocracy and military governors to become warlords and divide the empire. When Cao Pi, king of Wei, usurped the throne from Emperor Jian, the Han dynasty ceased to exist. Etymology. According to the records of the Grand Historian, after the collapse of the Qin dynasty, the hegemon Xiang Yu appointed appointed Liu Bang as prince of the small fief of Hanzhong, named after its location on the Han River. Following Liu Bang's victory in the Chu-Han contention, the resulting Han dynasty was named after the Hanzhong fief. History. Western Han. China's first imperial dynasty was the Qin dynasty. The Qin unified the Chinese warring states by conquest, but their empire became unstable after the death of the first emperor Qin Shi Huangdi. Within 4 years the dynasty's authority had collapsed in the face of rebellion. Two former rebel leaders, Xiang Yu of Chu and Liu Bang of Han, engaged in a war to decide who would become hegemon of China, which had fissured into 18 kingdoms, each claiming allegiance to either Xiang Yu or Liu Bang. Although Xiang Yu proved to be a capable commander, Liu Bang defeated him at Battle of Gaozu in modern-day Anhui. Liu Bang assumed the title emperor at the urging of his followers and is known posthumously as Emperor Gaozu. Chang'an was chosen as the new capital of the reunified empire under Han. At the beginning of the Western Han dynasty, 13 centrally controlled commanderies, including the capital region, existed in the western third of the empire, while the eastern two-thirds were divided into 10 semi-autonomous kingdoms. To placate his prominent commanders from the war with Chu, Emperor Gaozu enforced some of them as kings. By 157 BC, the Han court had replaced all of these kings with royal Liu family members, since the loyalty of non-relatives to the throne was questioned. After several insurrections by Han kings, the largest being the Rebellion of the Seven States in 154 BC, the imperial court enacted a series of reforms beginning in 145 BC, limiting the size and power of these kingdoms and dividing the former territories into new centrally controlled commanderies. Kings were no longer able to appoint their own staff. This duty was assumed by the imperial court. Kings became nominal heads of the fiefs and collected a portion of tax revenues as the personal incomes. The kingdoms were never entirely abolished and existed throughout the remainder of Western and Eastern Han. To the north of China proper, the nomadic Zhongyu chieftain Modu Chani conquered various tribes inhabiting the eastern portion of the Eurasian steppe. By the end of his reign, he controlled Manchuria, Mongolia and the Tarim Basin, subjugating over 20 states east of Samarkand. Emperor Gaozu was troubled about the abundant hand-manufactured iron weapons traded to the Zhongyu along the northern borders, and he established a trade embargo against the group. Although the embargo was in place, the Zhongyu found traders willing to supply the needs. Chinese forces also mounted surprise attacks against Zhongyu who traded at the border markets. In retaliation, the Zhongyu invaded what is now Shanxi province, where they defeated the Han forces at Beiding in 200 BC. After negotiations, the Heqin Agreement in 198 BC nominally held the leaders of the Zhongyu and the Han as equal partners in a royal marriage alliance, but the Han were forced to send larger amounts of tribute items such as silk clothes, food, and wine to the Zhongyu. Despite the tribute, on a negotiation between Liu Shangchani and Emperor Wen to reopen border markets, many of the Chanyu's Zhongyu subordinates chose not to obey the treaty and periodically raided Han territories south of the Great Wall for additional goods. In a court conference assembled by Emperor Wu in 135 BC, the majority consensus of the ministers was to retain the Heqin Agreement. Emperor Wu accepted this, despite continuing Zhongyu raids. However, a court conference the following year convinced the majority that a limited engagement at May involving the assassination of the Chanli would throw the Zhongyu realm into chaos and benefit the Han. When this plot failed in 133 BC, Emperor Wu launched a series of massive military invasions into Zhongyu territory. Chinese armies captured one stronghold after another and established agricultural colonies to strengthen the hold. The assault culminated in 119 BC at the Battle of Mobei, where the Han commanders Huo Qubing and Wei Qing forced the Xiongnu court to flee north of the Gobi Desert. After Wu's reign, Han forces continued to prevail against the Xiongnu. The Xiongnu leader Hu Hanyechani finally submitted to Han as a tributary vassal in 51 BC. His rival claimant to the throne, Zhizhichani, was killed by Chen Tang and Gan Yanshao at the Battle of Zhizhi in modern Taraz, Kazakhstan. In 121 BC, Han forces expelled the Xiongnu from a vast territory spanning the Hexi corridor till Openua. They repelled a joint Xiongnu-Qiang invasion of this northwestern territory in 111 BC. In that year, the Han court established 4 new frontier commanderies in this region: Jiquan, Zhangyi, Dunhuang, and Wuvai. The majority of people on the frontier were soldiers. On occasion, the court forcibly moved peasant farmers to new frontier settlements, along with government-owned slaves and convicts who performed hard labor. The court also encouraged commoners, such as farmers, merchants, landowners, and hired laborers, to voluntarily migrate to the frontier. Even before Han's expansion into Central Asia, diplomat Zhang Qian's travels from 139 to 125 BC had established Chinese contacts with many surrounding civilizations. Zhang encountered Dayuan, Kangzhou, and Daxia. He also gathered information on Shandu and Anxi. All of these countries eventually received Han embassies. These connections marked the beginning of the Silk Road trade network that extended to the Roman Empire, bringing Han items like silk to Roman goods such as glasswares to China. From roughly 115 to 60 BC, Han forces fought the Xiongnu over control of the oasis city-states in the Tarim Basin. Han was eventually victorious and established the Protectorate of the Western Regions in 60 BC, which dealt with the region's defense and foreign affairs. The Han also expanded southward. The naval conquest of Nanu in 111 BC expanded the Han realm into what are now modern Guangdong, Guangxi, and northern Vietnam. Yunnan was brought into the Han realm with the conquest of the Dian Kingdom in 109 BC, followed by parts of the Korean peninsula with the colonial establishments of Shantou Commandery and Leling Commandery in 108 BC. In China's first known nationwide census taken in 02 AD, the population was registered as having 57,671,400 individuals in 12,366,470 households. To pay for his military campaigns and colonial expansion, Emperor Wu nationalized several private industries. He created central government monopolies administered largely by former merchants. These monopolies included salt, iron, and liquor production, as well as bronze coin currency. The liquor monopoly lasted only from 98 to 81 BC, and the salt and iron monopolies were eventually abolished in early Eastern Han. The issuing of coinage remained a central government monopoly throughout the rest of the Han dynasty. The government monopolies were eventually repealed when a political faction known as the Reformists gained greater influence in the court. The Reformists opposed the modernist faction that had dominated court politics in Emperor Wu's reign and during the subsequent regency of Huo Guang. The modernists argued for an aggressive and expansionary foreign policy supported by revenues from heavy government intervention in the private economy. The reformists, however, overturned these policies, favoring a cautious, non-expansionary approach to foreign policy, frugal budget reform, and lower tax rates imposed on private entrepreneurs. Wang Mang's reign and civil war. Wang Zhengjun was first empress, then Empress Dowager, and finally Grand Empress Dowager during the reigns of the Emperors Yuan, Cheng, and Dai, respectively. During this time, a succession of her male relatives held the title of regent. Following the death of Wang Zhengjun's nephew Wang Mang was appointed regent as Marshal of State on 16 August under Emperor Ping. When Ping died on 3 February 06 AD, Wu Ziying was chosen as the heir and Wang Mang was appointed to serve as acting emperor for the child. Wang promised to relinquish his control to Liu Ying once he came of age. Despite this promise, and against protest and revolts from the nobility, Wang Mang claimed on 10 January that the divine mandate of heaven called for the end of the Han dynasty and the beginning of his own, the Xin dynasty. Wang Mang initiated a series of major reforms that were ultimately unsuccessful. These reforms included outlawing slavery, nationalizing land to equally distribute between households, and introducing new currencies, a change which debased the value of coinage. Although these reforms provoked considerable opposition, Wang's regime met its ultimate downfall with the massive floods of c. 03 AD and 11 AD. Gradual silt build-up in the Yellow River had raised its water level and overwhelmed the flood control works. The Yellow River split into two new branches, one emptying to the north and the other to the south of the Shandong Peninsula, though Han engineers managed to dam the southern branch by 70 AD. The flood dislodged thousands of peasant farmers, many of whom joined roving bandit and rebel groups such as the Red Eyebrows to survive. Wang Mang's armies were incapable of quelling these enlarged rebel groups. Eventually, an insurgent mob forced their way into the Weiyang Palace and killed Wang Mang. The Gengshi Emperor, a descendant of Emperor Jing, attempted to restore the Han dynasty and occupied Chang'an as his capital. However, he was overwhelmed by the Red Eyebrow rebels who deposed, assassinated, and replaced him with the puppet monarch Liu Penzi. Emperor Gengshi's brother Liu Xiu, known posthumously as Emperor Guangwu, after distinguishing himself at the Battle of Kunyang in 23 AD, was urged to succeed Gengshi as emperor. Under Guangwu's rule the Han Empire was restored. Guangwu made Luoyang his capital in 25 AD, and by 27 AD his officers Deng Yu and Feng Yi had forced the Red Eyebrows to surrender and executed the leaders for treason. From 26 until 36 AD, Emperor Guangwu had to wage war against other regional warlords who claimed the title of emperor. When these warlords were defeated, China reunified under the Han. The period between the foundation of the Han dynasty and Wang Mang's reign is known as the Western Han dynasty, a former Han dynasty. During this period the capital was at Chang'an. For the reign of Guangwu the capital was moved eastward to Luoyang. The era from his reign until the fall of Han is known as the Eastern Han dynasty of the later Han dynasty. Eastern Han. The Eastern Han, also known as the later Han, formally began on 5 August 25, when Liu Xiu became Emperor Guangwu of Han. During the widespread rebellion against Wang Mang, the state of Goguryeo was free to raid Han's Korean commanderies. Han did not reaffirm its control over the region until AD 30. The Trung sisters of Vietnam rebelled against Han in AD 40. The rebellion was crushed by Han General Ma Yuan in a campaign from AD 42-43. Wang Mang renewed hostilities against the Xiongnu, who were estranged from Han until the leader by a rival claimant to the throne against his cousin Punu submitted to Han as a tributary vassal in AD 50. This created two rival Xiongnu states, the southern Xiongnu led by Bai, an ally of Han, and the northern Xiongnu led by Punu, an enemy of Han. During the turbulent reign of Wang Mang, Han lost control over the Tarim Basin, which was conquered by the northern Xiongnu in AD 63 and used as a base to invade Han's Hexi corridor in Gansu. Duogu defeated the northern Xiongnu at the Battle of Iwulu in AD 73, evicting them from Turpan and chasing them as far as Lake Barkol before establishing a garrison at Hami. After the new protector general of the western regions Chen Mu was killed by allies of the Xiongnu in Karasar and Kucha, the garrison at Hami was withdrawn. At the Battle of Ikh in AD 89, Dao Jian defeated the northern Xiongnu Chani, who then retreated into the Altai Mountains. After the northern Xiongnu fled into the Ili River Valley in AD 91, the nomadic Jabei occupied the area from the borders of the Baiyao Kingdom in Manchuria to the Ili River of the Wusun people. The Jabei reached their apogee under Tan Shuai, who consistently defeated Chinese armies. However, Tan Shuai's confederation disintegrated after his death. Ban Chao enlisted the aid of the Kushan Empire, occupying the area of modern India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan, to subdue Kashgar and its allies Oggiana. When a request by Kushan ruler Vima Kadphises for a marriage alliance with the Han was rejected in AD 90, he sent his forces to Wakhan to attack Ban Chao. The conflict ended with the Kushans withdrawing because of lack of supplies. In AD 91, the office of Protector General of the Western regions was reinstated when it was bestowed on Ban Chao. In addition to tributary relations with the Kushans, the Han Empire received gifts from the Parthian Empire, from the king in modern Burma, from a ruler in Japan, and initiated an unsuccessful mission to Dakin in AD 97 with Gan Ying as emissary. A Roman embassy of Emperor Marcus Aurelius is recorded in the Hu Hanshu to have reached the court of Emperor Wan of Han in AD 166. Yet Rafe de Crispini asserts that this was most likely a group of Roman merchants. Other travelers to eastern Han China included Buddhist monks who translated works into Chinese, such as An Shigao of Parthia, and Lokaksuma from Kushan-era Gandhara, India. Emperor Zhang's reign came to be viewed by later Eastern Han scholars as the high point of the dynastic house. Subsequent reigns were increasingly marked by eunuch intervention in court politics and their involvement in the violent power struggles of the imperial consort clans. With the aid of the eunuch Zhang Zhong, Emperor he had Empress Duo Jadao put under house arrest and her clan stripped of power. This was in revenge for Du's purging of the clan of his natural mother, consort Liang, and then concealing her identity from him. After Emperor He's death, his wife Empress Deng Sui managed state affairs as the regent Empress Dowager during a turbulent financial crisis and widespread Qian rebellion that lasted from 107 to 118 AD. When Empress Dowager Deng died, Emperor An was convinced by the accusations of the eunuchs Li Run and Jiang Jing that Deng and her family had planned to depose him, and dismissed Deng's clan members from office, exiled them and forced many to commit suicide. After An's death, his wife, Empress Dowager Yan, placed the child Marquis of Beijing on the throne in an attempt to retain power within her family. However, palace eunuch Sun Cheng masterminded successful overthrow of her regime to enthrone Emperor Shun of Han. Jan was placed under house arrest. Her relatives were either killed or exiled, and her eunuch allies were slaughtered. The regent Liang Ji, brother of Empress Liang Na, had the brother-in-law of consort Deng Mengyu killed after Deng Mengyu resisted Liang Ji's attempts to control her. Afterward, Emperor Wan employed eunuchs to depose Liang Ji, who was then forced to commit suicide. Students from the Imperial University organized a widespread student protest against the eunuchs of Emperor Wan's court. Wan further alienated the bureaucracy when he initiated grandiose construction projects and hosted thousands of concubines in his harem at a time of economic crisis. Palace eunuchs imprisoned the official Li Ying and his associates from the Imperial University on a dubious charge of treason. In 167 AD, the Grand Commandant Dao Wu convinced his son-in-law Emperor Wan to release them. However, the emperor permanently barred Li Ying and his associates from serving in office, marking the beginning of the partisan prohibitions. Following Wan's death, Dao Wu and the Grand Tutor Chen Fan attempted a coup d'etat against the eunuchs Fu Lan, Cao Ji, and Wang Fu. When the plot was uncovered, the eunuchs arrested Empress Dowager Dao and Chen Fan. General Zhang Wan favored the eunuchs. He and his troops confronted Dao Wu and his retainers at the palace gate, where each side shouted accusations of treason against the other. When the retainers gradually deserted Dao Wu, he was forced to commit suicide. Under Emperor Ling, the eunuchs had the partisan prohibitions renewed and expanded, while themselves auctioning off top government offices. Many affairs of state were entrusted to the eunuchs Zhao Zhong and Zhang Rang, while Emperor Ling spent much of his time role-playing with concubines and participating in military parades. End of the Han Dynasty. The partisan prohibitions were repealed during the Yellow Turban Rebellion and Five Pecks of Rice Rebellion in 184 AD, largely because the court did not want to continue to alienate a significant portion of the gentry class who might otherwise join the rebellions. The Yellow Turbans and Five Pecks of Rice adherents belonged to two different hierarchical dualist religious societies led by faith healers Zhangzhu and Zhanglu, respectively. Zhanglu's rebellion in modern northern Sichuan and southern Shaanxi was not quelled until 215 AD. Zhang Jiayui's massive rebellion across 8 provinces was annihilated by Han forces within a year. However, the following decade saw much smaller recurrent uprisings. Although the Yellow Turbans were defeated, many generals appointed during the crisis never disbanded their assembled militia forces and used these troops to amass power outside of the collapsing imperial authority. General-in-Chief He Jin, half-brother to Empress He, plotted with Yuan Shao to overthrow the eunuchs by having several generals march to the outskirts of the capital. In a written petition to Empress He, they demanded the eunuchs' execution. After a period of hesitation, Empress He consented. When the eunuchs discovered this, however, they had her brother He Miao rescind the order. The eunuchs assassinated He Jin on September 22, 189 AD. Yuan Shao then besieged Luo Yang's northern palace while his brother Yuan Shu besieged the southern palace. On September 25 both palaces were breached and approximately 2,000 eunuchs were killed. Zhang Rang had previously fled with Emperor Shao and his brother Liu Xi, the future Emperor Jian of Han. While being pursued by the Yuan brothers, Zhang committed suicide by jumping into the Yellow River. General Dong Zhuo found the young emperor and his brother wandering in the countryside. He escorted them safely back to the capital and was made Minister of Works, taking control of Luoyang and forcing Yuan Shao to flee. After Dong Zhuo demoted Emperor Shao and promoted his brother Liu Xi as Emperor Jian, Yuan Shao led a coalition of former officials and officers against Dong, who burned Luoyang to the ground and resettled the court of Chang'an in May 191 AD. Dong Zhuo later poisoned Emperor Shao. Dong was killed by his adopted son Lu Bu in a plot hatched by Wang Yun. Emperor Jian fled from Chang'an in 195 AD to the ruins of Luoyang. Jian was persuaded by Cao Cao, then governor of Yan province in modern western Shandong and eastern Henan, to move the capital to Zhushang in 196 AD. Yuan Shao challenged Cao Cao for control over the emperor. Yuan's power was greatly diminished after Cao defeated him at the Battle of Guandu in 200 AD. After Yuan died, Cao killed Yuan Shao's son Yuan Tan, who had fought with his brothers over the family inheritance. His brothers Yuan Chang and Yuan Shi were killed in 207 AD by Gongsun Kang, who sent the heads to Cao Cao. After Cao's defeat at the naval battle of Red Cliffs in 2008 AD, China was divided into three spheres of influence, with Cao Cao dominating the north, Sun Quan dominating the south, and Liu Bei dominating the west. Cao Cao died in March 220 AD. By December his son Cao Pi had Emperor Jian relinquished the throne to him and is known posthumously as Emperor Wen of Wei. This formally ended the Han dynasty and initiated an age of conflict between three states, Cao Wei, Eastern Wu, and Shu Han.